Hello. Hopefully you can hear me well. I am very excited to present a PhD plan. ESMAR conference is the first place I'm presenting it at. My name is Tomasz Kozakiewicz. I just started my PhD at Newcastle University to address the need for supporting guidance for a web-based evidence synthesis outputs. What do I mean by those? These are tools that increasingly present research findings through interactive user interfaces, such as dashboards, rather than static PDF type products. I argue that we need more guidance to help researchers who produce such products know what to report and how to maintain research integrity and support meaningful use. I will start with a few examples, then move on to the need, and finish with how I suggest to address it. So the first prominent example are evidence and gap maps that visually represent concentrations and gaps for specific study types, in this case, bubbles of different colors, and they typically allow users to query, filter, and export the underlying evidence base. They also present study summaries. Evidence gap maps have witnessed big growth over the last years and are becoming increasingly important for living evidence synthesis. Another example are evidence portals. These are slightly different. They provide synthesized web-based information on what is known from research. So they go a step further. They just don't present the descriptive information, but synthesize it. And on the screen you can see probably the most widely used example that I know of, at least, the Teaching and Learning Toolkit, which presents what educational interventions are available, at what cost, how many additional months of progress on average they're likely to result in based on a comprehensive meta-analysis of past studies. Well, these examples, are really great. So far, not that many tools exist at scale or are regularly updated. As it's quite an intensive process, especially for evidence portals. So, but in any case, that may be changing because there are major investments now to support the infrastructure for living evidence synthesis. And because of that, I argue we need to consolidate the existing guidance and get widespread agreement on it, using a process aligned with the recommendations for developing health research guidelines, an already established one, right? So I think this is really the gap waiting to be filled through my PhD. Based on the scoping reviews so far, there are at least several areas that are not just poorly reported, but also may not be addressed by the existing guidance. For example, very few maps report how they assessed the gaps, how do they basically come up with methodology they use to interpret them, or they don't really report update plans or the different competing stakeholder influences, how they shape the map. A third is focused on questions other than effectiveness. 2 out of 5 do not report any equity-related considerations, and less than half are linked to a description of the methods used to produce it. So all of these may not have enough support in existing guidance, and I argue that the emerging, especially health researchers, would benefit from additional guidance on things like how the included study designs inform their platform and interface choices. By the way, it's not just me arguing, it's based on the current those two scoping reviews, how those then in turn shape how the way the data is interpreted and used, and how they define gaps, as I mentioned, report equity, and record views from the public and others. These are just some examples, and I think I'll be able to explore more if I do it systematically. So in terms of the plans, I'm now in the first stage, which is to identify the need for the guidance, contact authors of known guidance, conduct brief presentations, discussions, quick survey. That's why I'm here with you today, presenting at ESMAR, to review existing guidelines and reporting practices, to establish a theoretical framework, which will help me to then conduct these scoping reviews in a more comprehensive way, and also to evaluate user experience of existing web interfaces, and maybe even develop tools for evidence producers to better address user needs through user analytics, co-design workshops, things like that. And finally, the most important thing, reach consensus on the reporting guidelines ahead using a Delphi study, roll out the guidance and associated tools integrated with Equator and maybe some existing software, other guidelines, and finally to assess it using a rigorous method, for example, a contribution analysis. That was really it. Thank you so much for your attention. If you'd like to be part of the effort or just provide quick feedback, feel free to just fill in the short survey. Yeah, thank you very much. Have a great day.